guess we'll all need you to enlist here. But so I'm going to jump into the game now because I want to sort of show. This is sort of the prototype level that we spent about a year sort of working the workflows and some of the technical issues out. But I want to sort of show some of the aspects of it, and also show you that what you saw in that movie was actually game assets. Okay, so you're up here. So I'm actually on the bridge of that carrier, and walk around. I guess I'll. Oop. Fell down too many stairs. Down more stairs. I guess if I go out the side here, I can sort of show you. You can see out onto the actual main carrier there. But I'm going to cheat and sort of walk myself to the hangar bay really quickly. So here I'm sort of on the hangar bay, and so one of the things that I'm kind of happiest with the sort of level of fidelity that we're doing here. I'll sort of we'll spin around, but so my pilot character here. So he's built out of about 100,000 faces. So a typical current gen console game will have about 10,000 faces for a main character. So the difference you get with this is you get all this extra sort of piping and tubing and detail and creases and nuances that you wouldn't be able to get in a current gen style game. And then also if I'm looking around in the here in the hangar bay, the level of sort of detail. Oops, oh that's good. Prototype was still working, but you're looking around here in the level of detail, but the actual hangar itself is about just under about 2 million polys, and each one of these ships themselves, if we go take a look at them, I'll get into one to fly, they're about 300,000. So the ships, that's again about 10x what you have in a current gen console game, and it just allows you to have a lot more detail, sort of the paneling and the stuff, and it all holds up really close. But I'm going to go and get into my fighter. Start in, and it wouldn't be. Got to have a cockpit. It's got to be real. It's got to be detailed. So this is kind of what I'm talking about, the level of immersion. I mean, I think I actually was kind of regretted in Wing Commander 4 that we cut the cockpits out, mainly just because we didn't have the time to get them all done. But I mean, the whole thing is modeled fully in 3D, and everything that you do, and I'll get out and sort of show it here in a bit. But everything you're doing will be mimicked inside the cockpit. But, so try not to kill ourselves. Again, so so I was walking around this cockpit, which is actually I'll go here. Try not to normally play at this angle, but it's again it's exactly the same when I was talking about the level of fidelity. So the ship itself, and actually if we fly past, you'll see inside the bridge there is that was the bridge I was wandering around with. And if we get past, let's see if I get it. See all the folks in it or not. It's kind of hard. I don't want. Oops! I'm going to hit this side. That probably won't be so good. But the idea, I mean, the idea would be in the multiplayer side, you literally could be sitting in that bridge, and a friend of yours could get out in a fighter and fly around, and you could wave to each other, and it's all done at that level. So if you sort of notice, there wasn't any loading screen. It all holds up. I'm there in first person or third person at that level of fidelity, and then I get into my cockpit, and I've got let's find some light to show on it because this is space, so there's light. But so I'm in my cockpit. So if you think Wing Commander style, I've moved my joystick. You can see me do everything. I can see my feet on the pedals, moving back and forth. Foot on the throttle. And if I'm changing something around, you'll see my thumb. So every action that you're going to do in the final game, you'll actually do. You'll see your character do it. He flips the switch. You want to turn on it. You want to turn the weapons display on. You'll have to switch. Your character will actually have to switch, and it will come out. So it's all about making you feel immersive. It's sort of like the next step of what a long time ago I did in Wing Commander, where I put you in the cockpit, and instead of saying you were 52% damaged, it was like you would see the cockpit smoking, you would feel that. But of course, that was much more primitive. It was VGA 320 by 200. This is 1080p with millions of colors. But it's part of it's the level of detail and immersion. If I sort of come out on the ship itself, it's the same. It's like just like little things. So like silly things. But if I'm like moving my laser Gatlings around, the wires are all deforming, and if I'm flying, you'll sort of see my vectored thrust on the back it's all sort of moving. And let's see if I go here, shows a few things. But the idea is, this like all the craft that you fly are modeled to this sort of level of fidelity. So this particular fighter has about 300 parts, and about 60 plus of them are all sort of moving. So let's see what I'm doing if I'm push that a little bit. Classic Star Wars style stuff, but if we go in here, I'll sort of also deploy my missile bays, and the same thing. You can sort of, if I fire the missiles, and they're actually all set up very much like a real missile would be. So there's an explosive force, and they go out, and then it sort of hits the acceleration. But it's all sort of the aspect of sort of the realism. I mean, the same thing. I can sort of punch in, and it's like a level of detail that typically you haven't sort of seen before in at least definitely a console game. It's what you can do on a high-end PC. But let's see if I'll get in closer. Fly a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it's just if you want to come in right up really close, it's going to hold up all the way in really close, and then if you want to come out wide, I mean, it's the same thing, and the same on the carrier. The carrier itself was, I think the carrier itself is about 7 million polys, where this is about 300,000. So it's just all, that's all what you can do when you're sort of going crazy on the. You're not worrying about fitting inside 512 megabytes and working on 7-year-old technology. So one of the things that I'm kind of like most excited by is the way we're doing the flight model and the sort of physics simulation here. So so just to show you, so like here's my ship, and it's modeled. It's a complete, proper, full rigid body physical simulation, and actually it rotates and it moves and maneuvers around, changes orientation, all like a real spaceship would do. So I know it looks like it's got wings, but basically what's happening is force. Like so, here I'm yawing. You can see the thrusters, the vector thrusters, are all sort of articulating and actually generating forces in that direction. So if I'm going to pitch, you'll see them pitching and rolling and doing all that stuff. Same if I'm like rolling, you'll see the thrust. And so as I'm flying around, what's happening is the ship's sort of fly-by-wire system, so it's sort of set up very much like a F-35 would be, because obviously trying to figure all that out in space, because to actually go, okay, I got to put a force on this part of my rigid body, and I have to put a force over here on this part of the rigid body. That's just too much for any player to do, and it'd be too much for a human being to do. It's why an F-35 has a fly-by-wire system, because there's no way a real human pilot could actually fly it, because it's dynamically unstable. So the computer's like moving all the control surfaces all the time, and it's basically taking the input of the pilot, saying, okay, well, he wants to pitch, he wants to roll, he wants to go here. And so that the philosophy of that is very much in this. And so what happens is your ship's computer, when I say I want to pitch, I tell, okay, I want to pitch, and the sort of flight computer goes, okay, that means I need to put a force here and put a force here, and it actually talks to all the thrusters on the ship. So this particular one has eight maneuvering jets, 4 on the top, right, and there's 4 on the bottom down here. And so it basically polls them. It says, okay, I need a force over here, I need a force here, and which one of you can get there, and how quickly will it take you, and how much force can you give me? And then all the thrusters sort of give the information back to the flight computer, and the flight computer goes, okay, well, all right, I crunched all the numbers, and I need you to go here, and I need you to go here, and I need you to go here. And what's really cool about that is that in the old school of making a wing commander or a privateer or a freelancer style game, you basically said, okay, this ship would roll at 30 degrees a second, or this would pitch at 40 degrees a second. Well, with this system, there's none of that. It actually doesn't have any conception of like what your roll or pitch is. It's all based on what your mass is, what the thrusters are, you know, kind of how quickly they can articulate, how much thrust they can deliver. And so what's really cool about that is that what that means is when you're, say, in a combat situation and you actually get, you know, you get hit on your front top right thruster, or you get hit on your, you know, back bottom thruster or something, it will have a completely different effect on your sort of flight envelope. So they'll, you know, it's a level of fidelity that hasn't been done before. And the other thing that's really cool about that is that it really plays well into the bigger sort of Star Citizen universe where you're sort of building and modifying your ship, because it means that you can have like a huge amount of possibilities in how you're building and customizing your ship. And it also means that there's no particular strong, you know, definite, this is how we're going to win build, because for instance, to give you an example, you could build a tank of a spaceship with lots of armor, lots of shields, and heavy weapons. Costs you a bunch of money to build that, but someone who's a good pilot may have built a much lighter build that's really maneuverable, and yeah, if you hit this guy, then he'll probably blow up, but it's going to be pretty difficult to hit him. If he's a good pilot, maybe he can get 20 hits on you before you get one hit on him, and he takes you out. So there's a very much rock, paper, scissors base, because, you know, if you add weight to your ship, it's going to affect your sort of performance envelope. So even just, you know, in this situation, if you know, once you've fired a lot of your weapons or your missiles, you'll be slightly lighter. And we're also going to let you scope into it, so you don't have to do it, but if you want to, you can adjust sort of your power ratios or meters. So, you know, you can be in a tight turning dogfight, and you decide, okay, I'm going to take the risk and drop some power to my shields to put a bit more power to my thrusters to maybe try and get an extra degree or so in that turning battle. So I just think because it's built as a system, it's a lot more sort of flexible, and also has a lot more combinations. So in terms of an open persistent universe, or even in terms of playing the more Wing Commander style game, I think it's going to open up a whole range of strategies and combat in space, right? So I think that's great, and that's something that, you know, obviously you can do with today's tech that you couldn't have done, you know, when I was making the last games I was making, just because it's pretty processor intensive, but, you know, now you've got the horsepower to do it. So let's see, I think just for fun, there's my carrier gone, I'm going to bring a few enemy ships in. But this part's the sort of very final bit, so the full combat stuff's not all the HUD and everything isn't fully in, but I thought it'd be fun to sort of see all the ships attacking the carrier, much like you saw in the sort of cinematic sequence, which was obviously a lot of this, but staged with nice, taking the best shots for it. Okay. So it's the same like level of detail on the you know, on the big carriers that you have the same thing. I mean, you know, the carrier actually has got, you know, I think this particular carrier has 115 turrets on it, and of course they all move, they all articulate. I think there's 4 different types. There's the AA gun. There's a sort of a bigger sort of heavy-duty ship-to-ship one, and then there's the equivalent of a Flannex sort of point defense system, and there's a missile turret. But again, like I'm saying, I mean, this is, if you saw the cinematic sequence, this is all the same stuff, it's the same assets and everything else. And let me see if I can get... Fortunately, this is the bit where the HUD, Daisy. My HUD, yeah, I'm going to get killed at somewhere if I go around that. The full HUD targeting stuff isn't actually integrated in yet, so it's kind of hard for me to see who I'm shooting. He's going faster than me. That's not fair. was hoping to blow one up for you, but I think they've all kind of run away. We've got about 15 minutes left, and so kind of what I wanted to do was